The Redemption House is dead. Finally, Sheldon. The Redemption House, well, we gotta get through an hour of the challenge, but the Redemption House will be done by the end of this episode of You Killed It. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And once again, I am Sheldon Alexander.
And I know you and I have been vocal about this. I think fans have been vocal about this. I think that some of the castmates have been vocal about this. Mm-hmm. The Redemption House was just around so long this season, but this is the episode where we're finally done with it.
It's finally a thing. It's over. It's done with. I was good with that. And I will say I was a little worried by how the episode started. I thought this was going to be a full-on, like, oh no, here we go, Redemption House, like, get out of here. But no, it was good.
It was, you know what? I quite liked this episode. We had 3 competitions. We had just like a taste of drama, but not a ton of drama. Let's start with that, because we pick up right where we left off last episode with Nelson and Shane coming into the Redemption House. Kaylee immediately confronting Nelson about what Johnny Bananas had told her, that Nelson and Natalie had been getting real cozy in the main house. And just like I said, as we left off last week, Johnny comes into the bedroom that they're in and is sort of surveying the damage that he did. And then we actually got to see what happened. Johnny says, when confronted by Nelson, he says that as soon as Natalie got back in the main house, Hunter and Nelson were, and I quote, up her ass. Kaylee is very upset and goes outside to cool off. And Cam sort of talks to Nelson and says, you know, because Nelson's saying, like, I don't understand why she's so upset. And Cam's like, hey, she's been, like, stewing on this for a day or two or whatever it's been. Like, this has been, like, giving her crazy anxiety. And, like, you know, you're not really, like, forcefully ending it. And I think notably in confessional, Kaylee is right on the nose when she says that she's just being used as a pawn between Nelson and Bananas and sort of their dick measuring contest. I'm curious though, what did you think of all this?
I did not care one bit at all. The entire time I was just like, that. Get over this, like, whatever, no big deal. I'm watching it and I'm thinking, this is completely ridiculous. I can't, it's just like, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, it's so irrelevant to everything. Nelson, like, I can't take it seriously because Nelson is wearing these, like, dumbass glasses, right, while trying to be serious. And, like, it's so blatantly apparent that Johnny's just trolling. So, to me, and obviously I don't know this, and I'm assuming a lot based off of, let's say, the energy that Cam has towards Nelson right now on Twitter, I get the feeling that there was a lot of, like, just bandwagon, like, sorry, not bandwagon, but phony kind of playing up this whole, oh no, I really care about you, Nelson. And you know what? Like, that's just kind of what I felt while watching it. Who knows? I don't, but, you know, I just thought it was a bit much.
I forget who, but someone else from the main house, maybe it was Kara, maybe it was Marie, I'm not sure, said that it was true that Nelson and Natalie were cozying up with each other that night, but that it wasn't like kissing. Like, if you're Cam, you wouldn't be super comfortable with it, but like it wasn't anything beyond the pale. And I think notably, like, I trust the producers. If they had, like, juicy footage of this, they'd be showing us the juicy footage, wouldn't they?
1,000%.
Like,
definitely.
you would know better than I would. Yeah. So, like, I don't think it's that big a deal. Although, as you've pointed out tonight and on previous episodes of You Killed It, Kaylee and Nelson don't seem super close these days, judging purely by social media. Mm-hmm. So maybe Bananas' claims were backed up. Maybe something came to light that we haven't seen, that the producer somehow missed. But, like, if Natalie and Nelson were getting, like, actually super close in the house, especially in one of the bedrooms where they have, like, hard cams set up in all the corners, they would have shown us. They would have given us something.
Obviously, because if they did have it, there's no other payoff. It's not like there's another storyline, you know what I mean, or another reason to bring this all up, and you showed something else instead of showing this, big moment between Natalie and Nelson. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just a waste of time. Like, it was anticlimactic. There was no like punchline or anything to it. It was just kind of like Nelson's like, "Are you mad at me? Why are you mad at?" And it was just like, "Shut up."
Yeah, she Kaylee forgives Nelson for now, she says. I will say, I don't know what Kaylee is wearing in this whole scene, what she's dressed up in later when they do the double cross pull. She looks like a backup dancer for the Spin Doctors. Do you remember that band?
No.
Little Miss Can't Be Wrong, Two Princes.
No, I got nothing. I'm sorry. There's listeners for sure that are like, they know exactly what you're talking about. I'm like, nah, sorry, man.
When we're done recording, I'm gonna send you a Spin Doctors clip. You'll know the music for sure, but like, you gotta see how they're dressed, and you'll be like, oh yeah, John's right. That's how Kaylee's dressed. There is a small scene that I have to point out. Is after all that drama, after Kaylee forgives Nelson, it looks like they're eating dinner in the Redemption House, and Johnny is right at Nelson's throat. They're going back and forth. Tony seems kind of the angriest we've ever seen Tony, in terms of, like, I hate to say it, but while being sober, but like, he's right at Nelson too. And I don't know, you and I disagreed on Team Young Bucks celebrations whenever they won competitions, but I feel like those TYB celebrations are blowing up in Nelson's face, right? Like, all that 1000%. Shit talk is coming home to roost. And like, hey, if you want to celebrate, you just gotta know that it could be fuel to your opponent's fire. Well, and I think we're seeing it here.
It's a rare case where, if you're Johnny Bananas, I agree with and kind of understand where he's coming from, right? There's a whole house against Johnny Bananas trying to get him out. And Nelson was kind of the ringleader, or one of the ringleaders of that, one of the main focal points of that. He was super loud about it. He made it known. And now you're in the exact same place that Bananas is. That's kind of funny. So, yeah, you're going to hear about it.
You're going to hear about it, as you should. Like, that's just the way shit talk goes, right? Yeah. Like, if you can't back it up, or it somehow doesn't work out, like, that's just, it's going to blow up in your face.
Yeah.
We have a brief flip back to the main house, basically where people are talking about who they want to see back. I think the main thing is Cara and Marie want Johnny and Tony and Cam and Kaylee back in the house. Then it's right back to Redemption. God, I can't wait for this to be done. And it's time to pull the double cross.
So this is where things kind of pick up, right? Because, and to be honest, this is where I really checked back in. I was just like, Fair. What is happening right now? But this is where really things picked up, because we find out that it's double cross time, but all four teams are actually going to get a chance to get back into the house. It's just, if you pick the double cross, you get to choose your opponent. You get first pick in terms of who you get to go against to end up back into the house. So as this happens, Cam and Kaylee go first, but they do not pick the double cross. Second up is Kyle and Brad, right? And Kyle and Brad, boom, picks a double cross. Kyle seems pretty confident in his double cross picking skills. And so they end up getting first pick. And it wasn't really a surprise in terms of who they were going to pick to go against, right?
No. I will say, though, it wasn't really a surprise, because I think Kyle and Brad knew that as an all-male team, or assumed as an all-male team, it'd be to their advantage to take on an all-female team. But I also think that really, at this point, all the teams in both houses, main house and Redemption House, are pretty strong. Like, if you've made it this far, you've made it this far for a reason. Like, virtually everyone has won a competition of some sort, or survived a competition, whether it be an elimination or a daily competition or whatever. Like, they've all earned their stripes to be there. In my mind, the weakest team is probably Shane and Nelson, because of their lack of composure and communication. Like, they've been getting better, but they're also just as likely to totally fall apart and be at each other's throats. Whereas most of the teams, if they had a beef, they've settled it. Like, I wouldn't say that they're friends, but they're clicking, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The one thing I find super interesting is, and this is hindsight for sure, right? But knowing that there's a female team, we've talked about it, so obviously you would assume if you're on the show, you have to be paying attention to the fact that there's going to be, like, it's not going to be a physical challenge against the all-female team. It's just not what's going to happen. So unless you're confident enough that you're smarter than Cam and Kaylee, isn't that kind of, do you know what I mean? Like, do you almost take your chances against, well, they wouldn't want to go against physical challenge against Bananas and Tony, but do you almost feel more confident in your skills of going against Shane and Nelson? Not Shane and Nelson. Nelson and, Shane and Nelson.
Yeah, Shane
in a physical challenge as opposed to trying to take on Kaylee and Cam in a puzzle. You'd assume there's like some, right? Because we know by this point. So it can't just be us sitting on our couches realizing that they're not going to put you in a physical challenge against against a female team. So if that's what you're thinking in terms of that being the quote unquote weaker team, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, you got to throw that out the window, no?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, we don't really know because they had 2 elimination competitions here, we don't know if they had either of them set up, right? Or maybe they had them both set up. I don't know. But, like, to your point,
no,
if you know that
you're... So, as a producers, right, like, you would definitely have, knowing that there's an all-girls group that's going to be in it, you're going to have one of the challenges already set up that it's not going to be a head-to-head physical contact challenge.
Yeah, now, there's no way they could have done the second one between the 2 all guys groups with Cam and Kaylee.
So they would have had it set up that, let's say Cam and Kaylee, like, you already know the 4 teams, so you know Cam and Kaylee are going to be one of the teams that are in it. So you purposely would set that up so that there's one challenge that's not going to be head-to-head physical competition. So that's what I mean. If your whole thought process is Brad and Kyle is we're going to pick the weaker team, isn't that only the weaker team based on your thought that you're just stronger than them? But you know that's not going to be the advantage.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, like, so let's explain the competition that they did, because it's very important.
It's way too complicated.
I think
the explanation was not easy.
No, I think I can sum it up, though. So they have to climb this peg wall where they insert pegs as they go, and the pegs have numbers on them. The blue ones are addition, the red ones are subtraction. Your total number, like your total sum on the wall, has to add up to 32. So when you pick your pegs, you have to be doing the math of, like, how does this affect my total sum? So you can climb to the top and ring the bell, but it doesn't matter if you haven't added up to 32. There's a few things that we got to talk about. First of all, is I didn't appreciate that Brad is an accountant and also, I gather, taught math. Like, that was kind of brought up when he and Kyle are sorting out what they're going to do. But Brad and Kyle figure that he'll have to do more math climbing the wall than if you're the person handing the pegs.
Made no sense. Absolutely no sense. Like, he thought that he was going to be doing the math as he's climbing up this wall. Like, that makes 0 sense at all. Obviously, you should be the one that's looking at all the numbers and deciding which ones to hang, and then the person that's going up the wall has nothing to worry about other than going up the wall. Also, I might add, Kyle is taller, right?
Yes.
So it would be theoretically easier for him to maneuver and put pegs in and also reach the bell at the very top. So, I don't know. It really didn't make much sense. Their thought process was flawed to begin with. But then on top of that, as we saw in this challenge, Brad, I guess, wasn't a good math teacher or wasn't a good accountant. I don't know. Right?
Or, like, he and Kyle got flustered. I don't know. I gotta give huge props to Cam, though. I love Cam. You know, I forget who. I had a listener being like, "Man, you're totally in the bag for Devin. Like, who's your is Devin your favorite?" I'd say Devin is one of my favorites, but Cam is way up there. Like,
for sure.
In my mind, Cam is all positives. Like, she's funny. She is just like, I respect her. Like, I respect how she conducts herself. She's a good teammate. I respect how she conducts her business inside and outside of the house. Mm-hmm. She's an incredible competitor. Like, let me put it this way. Let me put it another way. There's no drawbacks to Cam. Yeah. Right? Like, I have no criticisms of Cam. Yeah. And she says that she's strong at math, too, in addition to Brad. And she has a brilliant strategy, and that is to do the math on the ground. Like, when you have all of the pegs laid out, just add it up, have them in a line, like, pull them away from the main group, and then just start handing them to Kaylee. So all Kaylee has to do is run back and forth, put the pegs up the wall, and, like, plan the optimal path, which is smart for tons of reasons. First of all, that way you know that your math is legit. Second of all, it simplifies what Kaylee has to do. Kaylee doesn't have to get flustered worrying about math or anything like that. All Kaylee has to do is plot the best course for her and her height and her skill level of climbing to get up that wall.
Also, too, the numbers are just right in front of you. Of course, it's going to be easy to put together or to do math and do your additions in your head, additions and subtractions, right? Yep. It's going to be easy for you to work out these equations. That's the word I was looking for. Wow, I'm smart. Yep. It'll be easy for you to figure out the equations with the numbers directly in front of you, as opposed to, up on the wall and having to adjust. I don't know. Kyle and Brad were an abomination of a team. Let's be serious, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was terrible, their thought process within this, and what a far cry from how this game started. Because I know it seems like a long time because this season has been super long, but at the very beginning, Brad and Kyle were winning challenges, right? Yeah. And they were kind of, I don't want to say in control of the house because there's so many people still in there, still competing, but they were in such good standing early, and then as the numbers dwindled and the pressure mounted and they got into eliminations where not only is there pressure, but now you're dealing with a different skill set, especially the way that these elimination rounds were set up. It was a lot more based on mental challenges, more so than they were physical challenges, no? Like, there are physical aspects to it, but I feel like a lot of these were more about mental competitions, and they cracked under pressure and were not good.
Absolutely. Like, Kyle's never won an elimination competition. Right? And he says something that's not too bright. He says that he's never been to college, but to me, this sounds like a high school math problem. And I'll even say, I'm bad at math. As you and I have said in past episodes, when you and I were in high school in Ontario, we had 13 grades. The 13th is called the OAC.
Shout out to OAC.
I took math up to grade 12, and I failed grade 12 math terribly. And I struck a deal with my grade 12 math teacher that he would pass me if I promised to never take math again. We both lived up to our end of the bargain.
You know what's funny? I have an opposite story than that. I took math up until grade 11. Wait, because you had to take, how many math credits did you need to have? You had to have at least grade 10, right?
Yeah.
So I took math in grade 11, but I failed it. But the thing was, I was close. I was at like maybe 45 or 46% heading into the exam, which was optional. And I was just like, I don't know this. I'm going to fail. I'm not taking the exam. And my teacher was so mad at me. She was so disappointed in me for not even trying. Like, it hurt my feelings how disappointed she was in me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, no, seriously. And I mean, mind you, it was a really good teacher, a teacher that like was really dope, really good teacher that I had for 2 years in a row, right? So we were like pretty cool. We were tight. And so I just thought she wouldn't have thought it, like, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't really need this math credit anyways. No big deal. I'm just going to take this test and fail it. So why would I do that? And she was so disappointed that I didn't even try. And it wasn't even about the fact that, oh, she just wanted me to try so that she would just pass me, because I'm assuming that's probably what would have happened, right? But she was just like, what do you mean you're not even going to try? Like, and she was so disappointed in me. And I was like, oh, no. That's so bad. I was going to say something else, but then that could easily have been misconstrued. So then I stopped myself. Editing on the fly. How about that, John? But yes, shout out to, what's her name? Miss Malloy. See, never mind. I was going to say something else that was good that would come out misconstrued, and I'm not going to go there. But shout out to Miss Malloy. She was awesome. Northern.
Hail, dear old Northern. Here's the thing I'll say, though. To me, the way you sort out this math problem is super easy. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm bad at math. You do what Cam does, where she's like laying out the pegs on the ground, and all you do is you find, like, let's say you find one of the blue ones, one of the addition ones, and it's like 8. Then you look at the red ones, and you find the red one that says 8, and you just have them canceling each other out. And then you add like 2 or 3 of the addition ones that add up to 32. Like, you don't even have to make the math that hard, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I didn't get a good enough look to see what all of the numbers were, but I'm sure it couldn't have been that complicated, right?
But you get what I'm saying? You just keep it around 0, and then like the last 3 or whatever.
What you're saying.
Yeah, it's that simple. But I mean, it sounds like Kyle and Brad, based off of what they were shouting to each other, were making it way more complicated than it needed to be, and most of the people in the house were rooting against them. So, like, Marie, as an example, was, like, moved over to their side and was shouting numbers to distract them, to throw off their count. And it sounds like it worked.
It definitely sounded like it worked. And the other thing, too, the reason why I think they messed themselves up was because it started off as Brad being like, oh, yeah, I'm the math guy. I got this covered. And then midway through, you realize that it doesn't really make sense and that Kyle's the one actually handing him the numbers. And so midway through, it kind of switched to like a joint or a collaboration, let's say. And Kyle obviously doesn't know what he's doing. So he probably just started handing random numbers, not keeping a look at the entire board. And then they just messed up. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think like it started off as, okay, I'm going to take the lead on this. But then Brad, you get thrown off because now you're dealing with climbing and where you're putting the pegs, and you might lose track of something. And at certain points, you could hear him yell, hey, Brad, hey, Brad. Oh, no, sorry. You could hear Brad yelling, hey, Kyle, like, take a look at the board. Let me know what we need. What do we need? Right? And it's like, no, bro, that's not how this was supposed to go down, right?
No. And it's worth noting, Brad gets to the bell first, rings it, but his math is wrong. And Kaylee continues to just like plug along just with Cam feeding her the sum that they know adds up to 32. She climbs to the top, and Kaylee, who's even shorter than Brad, basically has to jump off the wall to ring the bell.
Yeah.
Like, credit to Kaylee. Like, she put it all on the line. I think Cam and Kaylee, I mean, Cam's always been great. I'm so sick of the Kaylee Nelson relationship drama, but I really like the Cam and Kaylee relationship as it's developed, and I think Kaylee has really improved as a competitor, largely thanks to Cam being supportive and positive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was such a perfect example of, like, and we talk about it all the time on this podcast, right? For people, when you're trying to sell them on what the challenge is, it's not just about people dealing within these competitions, right? Like, there's so much to do with how you interact with your partner. It's such a key point. And if you can't get along with your partner, you have zero chance. And in this case, I feel like Cam and Kaylee made it so much further along in this game just based off the strength of their relationship in terms of how well they work together. Because they didn't have a relationship before they were partners, right? They're kind of forced together, obviously, with the fight. And then they just built this sort of trust in terms of, okay, you take the lead in certain parts. These are your strengths. These are my strengths. And you're right. If Cam did take the lead, Kaylee gets a lot of credit because she was down for whatever. She was down to, like, take Cam's orders, for lack of a better term. And I don't mean that in as, like, negatively as it sounds.
No.
But she was willing to, yeah, I'll climb this wall. Yeah, I'll go in the ball pit and like flip around 85 times. Like, yeah, like whatever it was. I'll go in the dunk tank. Like whatever it was. She was down for it. She was willing to put herself in Cam's arms and get the job done.
I would say that Cam was the leader of that duo, but not the boss. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, she had Kaylee on board with her plans, but it was because Cam showed her so much respect and kindness. Right?
Exactly.
And, like, never made her feel like shit, but it was like, hey, I've got an idea. How's this sound? Cam was definitely in charge, but the way Cam carries herself was so respectful that Kaylee just was like, yeah, like, co-sign, like, let's get it. And I mean, also, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and also, as you said, right, their plan was just so much better, right?
Yes.
Like, Kaylee, you know, because it almost gave her the opportunity to help Cam do the math, so they kind of did it together. You know what I mean? Like, if you needed it, because I think there was one part where she said, where they like both looked at it and they figured out which number they needed or whatever, right? But I feel like because it was such a joint effort and they knew the rules ahead of time, that part made it easier for them as the game went along. And so Kaylee could just focus because, hey, we're going to worry. We know that they're doing something different. They're taking a different approach than we are, but we're not going to alter that and change our approach. We're going to continue to do what we're going to do. And I think that was so genius. Meanwhile, you have Kyle who's like, oh, I don't know math, so I'm not going to do anything, but then is forced into it. And to show you how SMRT he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back to his line of, I've never been to college. And it's like, I went to college and I didn't take math, so what does that mean? Do you know, like, what? Like, you're in a confessional, meaning you had time to think about what you were going to say, and that's your excuse? I never went to college? That's why you can't do math up to 32?
Yeah, and it's simple addition and subtraction. Like, that's... It's not exactly calculus, you know?
I got nothing.
The other two teams, Shane and Nelson and Tony and Bananas, play King of the Ring, which is a classic challenge setup where it's basically a wrestling match where the four players have to hold a battering ram between them, and they have to try to push each other out of the ring. And simple. Right off the bat, I was trying to think of, like, who's going to win this? And I figured that Tony and Bananas were probably, if you, like, added up their weight, probably heavier. Mm-hmm. But the big problem is, for that team, is that Tony is so much taller than everyone else. And, I mean, he's not the most graceful. And you played football. You watch football. You know who
wins.
That's right. Low man wins. And it's just going to be hard for Tony to get low.
Yes. Here's the thing that I thought too, right? I thought Tony and Bananas were going to win just because I think they have more experience, like in terms of eliminations. Obviously, Bananas has way more experience with. He's probably played these games before or some form of it. But also, yes, I thought they were stronger. But again, it wasn't just about strength. There was strategy to this. And even though they didn't use it, they didn't use the correct strategy, Nelson and Shane were just even worse with their strategy. What I mean by that is, if you're Nelson and Shane, you know that you're probably not as strong as Tony and Bananas. So why try to fight that fight? Like, I thought the move here was, I thought it was going to be way more of an endurance challenge. That's what I thought this would turn into, in terms of, okay, well, let's just stand our ground, try to tire the other team out, and then when they think, you know what I mean, they're pushing and pushing and pushing, boom, we think they're tired out and we got them. I thought this was going to turn into an endurance challenge, and instead, they just got bullied. Straight bullied.
It was, yeah. It
was sad. It was a sad performance. I think editing made it look a little bit better than it actually was.
Yeah.
But I don't think, like, it was, normally you see these challenges and by the end of it, well, I guess it's kind of cold, so maybe that's why you don't see dudes sweating, but it looked like light work for Tony and Bananas. It wasn't even close.
I think it was Nelson himself said that was the fastest elimination he'd ever, or the second point was the fastest point he'd ever seen
Yeah.
on an episode of the challenge. Which, like, obviously the Johnny Bananas backpack is the fastest because that was legitimately 13 seconds.
Yeah.
But I think you're totally right that the editing did them some favors because just the way everyone was talking about it seemed like it was over. Like, all 3 rounds, because Tony and Bananas swept 3-0, seemed like it was maybe 5 minutes of work.
So I have a question for you. Were you surprised at the fact that Joss was right? Like, I was surprised in the way that it was edited, because when Joss gave away at the very beginning what the strategy should be, I thought that would lead to some sort of twist to this challenge. Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of threw me off because none of them used that actual strategy that Joss said at the very beginning, which is correct. You're not trying to bully the other team or or push them, because that's going to cause you to use up more of your energy. Instead, you resist, let them think they're in control, and then flip it. And we kind of saw this with, I don't remember what the challenge was called, but we saw it before where you have like that wishbone, right? Remember, and you had to like pull your partner out of the ring. That was sort of the strategy, right? Where you would kind of like trick them into thinking they're pulling you towards the edge of the barrier or whatever, and then you just sort of reverse ground and you throw them out of the ring. I was waiting to see that strategy in this, and it never happened. And so I was so surprised that when Josh said it, nobody actually did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought for them to put that confessional clip in, we would have seen some form of that. But no, straight domination, light work, as I said. Pathetic performance of your Nelson, because you were talking a big, big game in his shades, in his pretty boy button-up shirt. That was a loud shirt. That was a Migo style shirt he's got on in his confessional. And it's just a tough way to go out if you're Nelson, because you talked a lot of junk. And I don't fault him for that, because I feel like that's part of the game. And I also feel like that's a good strategy because you're clearly you got Johnny Bananas off his game for a certain portion of this season, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to completely knock the strategy, but at the end of the day, you got to back up your talk. And that didn't happen.
No, it did not happen.
Oh, sorry. One thing I want to get your opinion on, too. Nelson says, I just wish I could get him one-on-one in something like that. Do you think, how do you think that goes?
I mean, if it's a competition exactly like that, I think Bananas destroys Nelson one-on-one.
Interesting. I think Nelson might give him a go. I think Nelson is super strong. I don't know. Again, it comes down to strategy again. But I feel like Tony really held it down for Bananas in this challenge. And Bananas was just a better competitor than Shane. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of factors. I think that, I mean, you touched on this earlier. Shane and Nelson probably should have done things a little differently in terms of strategy. Like, they probably could have, let Bananas and Tony bully them, and then, at the last minute shift and twist and, try to, do a little judo throw, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And used their agility. Because I think Nelson is the most agile of the four when he's not tripping over his own feet. But I think that in a pure Nelson versus Bananas showdown, Nelson's super fast, but Bananas isn't slow, and Bananas definitely weighs more than Nelson.
Also true.
So I would say that Nelson is a more athletic person, but in terms of pure muscle, Bananas is probably in terms of just bench pressing is probably stronger, and Bananas has that weight advantage. So it would be closer than this was, because I think Tony's the heaviest of all four, and was just a stiff backbone for Bananas. But I think Bananas versus Nelson, just because of the size difference, I think it goes Bananas' way. Although it'd be it would go 5 rounds, because I think that Bananas would end up just having to grind Nelson down and wear him out just by sheer size.
No, that's true. It definitely would be interesting, though. Definitely would be an interesting go. But yeah, in this instance, Didn't work out for them. Tony and Bananas back in the house. Kaylee and Cam back in the house. And as they were walking back in, I was thinking, are they just straight up the favorites, Tony and Bananas? I thought so. I thought about it, and like quite simply, I was like, yeah, they're probably the favorites going back into the house to win the game, right?
We basically immediately, after like some quick like debriefing in the main house, we go straight on to a purge challenge. And I love this. I love that we had 3 competitions. And like I said in my notes, I feel like this is going to end on a cliffhanger because I saw that there's like 10 minutes left in the episode. I was like, oh, this is going to be some bullshit. They're going to stretch it out. But they didn't.
No, they played it straight. And I appreciated that. I really, really did.
So let's set up what this competition looked like. They had to roll a quote-unquote boulder. Spoiler, it was not actually made of rock. Down a hill into a ravine, like into a creek. Although it seemed like it was a dry creek. Like I didn't see any water. Yeah. Then they had to get it back out and then roll it up the other side of this valley. And Natalie and Polly get a 10-second head start because they won the last competition. Yep. And as I already mentioned, it was a purge challenge. So if you lose, you're done. I'm gonna give a shout out to myself and say that I picked Joss and Sylvia to win.
Okay. Why?
Because he is so damn athletic. Like,
okay. And this is an endurance challenge, right? Like,
this
make
is
no
endurance.
Mistake about it.
Remember, I guess it was in Vendettas, how they started off where they had to run to the top of Gibraltar.
Yes. Yep.
And
I definitely remember that.
Fucking smoked everyone.
Yeah.
Like it was not even close. And it's not like he's skinny. Like Kyle is good at endurance as well. Not that Kyle's competing anymore, but like Kyle's also endurance, but Kyle's like thin and lean and not super strong. Joss is obviously jacked. Yeah. Like Joss has some muscle behind him. And Sylvia, although I don't know that she has the best endurance, she has a motor. Like she's mentally tough. Mm-hmm. So it's like even though Joss could probably do this by himself, he will have Sylvia with him basically every step of the way. Who did you think was going to win though? Just before
to be honest,
started.
I didn't even really think about who was going to win or who was. I was more focused on like who was going to lose.
Okay.
Just because I was thinking about it from the context of because it was a purge challenge, it was just so much more important to not lose as opposed to just winning, right? Obviously, you could guarantee your safety by winning, obviously, so that's a big deal. But I think most important, it was just make sure you don't lose. So don't make any like huge mistakes. So I was more focused on it from that point. And I thought it would be a way bigger deal, the strategy, right? Because the way that they explained it in terms of if you go right, it's probably easier in the creek. But if you go left, it's probably... Sorry, did I mix that up? If you went right, whichever direction it was. If you went one way, it was going to be a lot harder through the creek, but an easier path to the end. And if you went the other way, it was going to be easier through the creek, but a longer distance. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Maybe I messed that up. I probably messed that up. But if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about anyways.
There's pros and cons to both sides.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, bottom line is, I thought that was going to come into to play a lot more than it did. And really all that happened was the fact that everyone went the one direction and were kind of like waiting. Whereas Johnny and Tony realized, why are we going to stand here, wait in line, when we could just go to where nobody is and just go right through and figure it out instead of waiting in line and not moving at all. So they did that, and then Cam and Kaylee followed, but it didn't go as well for Cam and Kaylee as it did for Johnny and Tony, did it?
No, it did not. It's so easy to Monday morning quarterback these things, but Cam and Kaylee made at least 2 mistakes. First of all, as you were saying, the path that Bananas and Tony chose was the more difficult part of the creek. Mm-hmm. And Tony I don't know how much taller he is than Kaylee and Cam, but he's got probably at least 8 inches on both of them.
Yes.
And so he's a huge advantage in terms of getting the boulder out of the creek, because he can just sort of like roll it up and like do an overhead press and like push it out, and then like Bananas just has to scramble ahead and like try to pull the boulder out. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The other mistake was like,
team it.
yeah, tag team it. The other mistake that Cam and Kaylee made was that they just sort of rolled the boulder into the creek without either of them in it, and like I think they're kind of hoping that it would go so fast that it would just like bounce over.
Mm-hmm.
It would suck, but in my mind, the thing to do is one of you get in the creek and like be ready to like just keep your hands in the air and like help it roll over.
See, I agree with that too, and I wrote down, I wonder how heavy this boulder, quote unquote, actually is. That was the thing I was curious about, because I thought the exact same thing. That was kind of the way to go, because, you know, you had to tag team it in that sense, and you couldn't get it just stuck in and then try to pick it up from the side, right? Like, that didn't really make sense, right? And so that's why they got tied up. And if you look at what Cara and Marie were doing, they kind of followed what you just said, in the sense that Cara was in the creek trying to like lift it up and pass it up to Marie, and Marie would kind of pull it all the way back, if that made sense. If that makes sense, you know?
Yeah. So we should note that, I think I said this, Paulie and Natalie have a 10-second lead, but it's not really helpful at all.
No.
Because they're kind of the guinea pig as to how to get across. And also, God bless her, but Natalie is so small that she's not super helpful. And like, Paulie races way ahead of her going down to the creek, and I think part of that is that he just lost control, because he's not a big person either. And then like when it comes to getting the boulder out of the creek, she's not very helpful. And like, I don't think that's by lack of effort on her part. It's just like, facts are facts. I think she's like 5'2". So
totally agree.
They end up, as I had predicted to myself, Joss and Sylvia win pretty solidly. And Paulie and Natalie actually catch up and pass Bananas and Tony, it looked like, in the last like 20 meters, I'd say. I don't know. But it looked like they kind of had a last minute push. Then Bananas and Tony, as I mentioned, are third. Ashley and Hunter are fourth. We've barely spoken about them this episode. Cara, Maria, and Marie are fifth. And then Cam and Kaylee are last and eliminated. But to their credit, they make it all the way up the hill. And they're very positive and supportive of each other. And I liked what Cam said to Kaylee as they're sort of in the home stretch. Whatever happens as we cross that finish line, let's have smiles on our faces.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that for sure. That was cool. And it really just summed up what we were just talking about, right? Win or lose, they grew so much together as a team that it was cool to just see them finish, right? And know that they would want to finish and just go out the right way, to use a bad sports pun, right?
Yeah. Well, they can have their head held high. And, you know,
for another bad sports pun, yes.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps the greatest mark of success is that TJ, he didn't really give them that, like, you killed it rub by saying, hey guys, you killed it. And he didn't, like, really single them out for their effort. But he didn't rag them for, like, lack of hustle or lack of effort.
No, not at all.
And he would be on other teams. And like, it's fair. Like, they really tried their best. And it was a tough competition. I do think, as I said, they made a misstep in their strategy there, but, you know, all in all, I think they did well.
Yeah, no, totally. Can't be too mad. They made it far in the game. When you add in the fact that their games were completely flipped on its head so early on by losing both of their partners because they got into a fight, and then they had to get a new partner early on, and just everything they had to go through in terms of, you know, being picked on because they were a female team, an all-female team, rightly or wrongly, just how this game went. it's like people didn't catch on to the fact that, hey, these eliminations aren't physical challenges. You know what I mean? They won mad eliminations. They had a really good season. So they made it pretty far. They made it right to the end, just before the final. Nothing to be ashamed of at all.
No.
Again, too, I was super happy that they ended the challenge and they didn't leave it as a cliffhanger.
Yeah, me as well. And that we're finally done with the Redemption House. It's now...
Oh, yes.
It's now, like, win or go home. Or at least, you're going into an elimination. I'm glad to see Shane and Nelson gone. I'm glad to see Kyle and Brad gone. Like, a lot of the people who rubbed me the wrong way are gone now. And like I said, I really like Cam and Kaylee as a team, but I dislike the Nelson-Kaylee drama. That's off the table.
Yep.
Even though it comes at the cost of Cam. I'm curious, what for you was the best line of the episode?
To me, it was super easy, and I got to give it to Ashley. It was while Kyle and Brad were struggling during the challenge, and she says, "Why did Brad pick Kyle to do the math? He can't even remember how many girls he slept with this season, much less count to 32." I don't know if that was a written rap or if that was a freestyle off the dome by Ashley, but I'm going to give her marks for creativity.
I like it, but like, was she not one of those girls? Like, isn't that a bit of a self-burn?
Yeah, no, but that's what makes Ashley Ashley. There's no shame in her game.
That's true. There's none.
No shame in her game.
For me, the line of the night goes to TJ. Bananas sort of sets him up by saying, "We're going to hell. You want to come with us?" Classic Bananas. And TJ immediately just goes, "Nope."
Shouts to TJ. Solid TJ season.
Solid, but just like so witty and just like so direct and frank. Like, I just love it. "We're going to hell. You want to come with us?" "Nope." Sorry. I was gonna say, I've got to ask you, who killed it for you this week?
So I know this might sound weird because they got eliminated, but it's almost a parting gift, let's say, because I'm gonna give my "You Killed It" MVP to Killa Cam. Just because I feel like it was one last, like, getting back into the house and winning that elimination round against Brad and Kyle. I feel like it was one last hurrah. It was another tick on the notch, tick on the belt. That's the bad cliche I'm looking for.
Yep.
It was another notch in the belt for Killa Cam in terms of her record in eliminations. It added another win to her record in eliminations. And again, she just had a great season in terms of, remember, very early on in the game, she figured out how to manipulate the new voting system and get whoever it was that she wanted to be in the elimination into the elimination. Again, the way that she handled this season, having a different partner, how she handled the drama in the house, how she, tried to dead a lot of the noise with Nelson and involving her partner Kaylee. She just had a really good season, a really good overall season. And I'm going to use the excuse that she performed again in an elimination, got Kaylee, who I don't really think is a good player in this game, but Cam got her to perform, right? And I think that for that alone, for the run that they had, I don't know how many people could be partnered with Kaylee and make it this far in the game. And so I'm going to give my "You Killed It" MVP to Killa Cam.
I am with you 100%. It's unanimous that Cam killed it this episode. Yeah, okay, she's eliminated, she lost. But to me, Cam reminds me of Landon. Do you remember that guy? He hasn't been on in ages. But the thing about Landon was that he was a great competitor, and arguably of any like major success, because I think he's in the top 5 winnings ever. He's one of the ones that has always, like, word as bond, played it straight down the middle. You get what you get with Landon. Like, if he says he's going to vote with you, he's going to vote with you. And he was his, and like, even the people he was usually opposite against in terms of competition, like a Johnny Bananas, respected the fact that he was a straight shooter. Like, they couldn't they couldn't say anything that you couldn't say anything bad about Landon, and it's the same with Cam. I really love and respect the way she goes about her business on and off the field of play. There were some hints that maybe she and Leroy were in a relationship, but they kept their business quiet. Like, we've never had it confirmed one way or the other. She's funny, she's smart, she's a good competitor. She and Kaylee, I mean, they weren't even supposed to be each other's vendettas, but they had enough of a beef to be thrown together when after that big fight. But she's just like a great partner. Like, I just have so much respect for her as a person, which is rare on the show. And it's another season where she comes out looking great. Like, I don't know if she was at the reunion. I assume she was. At the reunion, I don't see how anyone's gonna be able to criticize her. Right?
No, I agree. I have nothing bad to say about Killer Cam. I think, again, it's a great performance. They made it super far. Like, I'm pretty sure all we have left is the challenge to see who's going to be in the final and the final.
Yep.
So that's a pretty good run in a tough season, right? And
in a very tough season.
Yeah, nothing to hang your heads about. I think they did a great job with the cards that they were given, and no complaints at all.
And you know what? It's even, like, if you think of her confessionals, she's not even a confessional gangster. Like, shit she would say in confessional.
Yeah, she's just funny in confessionals, yeah.
Yeah, shit she would say in confessional, she would say to people's faces as well. Yeah. Like, she had, you know what the word is? She has a lot of integrity. That's what I'm looking for.
No, I agree.
So, thank you for a great season, Killer Cam. We look forward to having you back ASAP. And I'm sorry that she's gone. Although I'm not sorry that we no longer have to see the Shane and Kaylee hoo-ha, all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you on social media, Sheldon?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. And shouts to the people listening to this podcast all over the place, as you can listen to it on iTunes and SoundCloud. Shout out to you peoples, especially the day one people on SoundCloud. Appreciate you. We wouldn't still be doing this podcast if it wasn't for you guys, the day one SoundCloud listeners.
Absolutely. And people can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. It's the same for both. And I don't have any Twitter warnings for people. I'm just going to be tweeting my usual nonsense. But I don't have any big assignments coming up. So, like, you don't have to worry about excessive Leafs or Raptors or tennis or golf or whatever I end up doing. To the best of my knowledge, there won't be any of that.
I apologize, because a lot of my feed is all Raptor stuff lately, so I apologize for that.
Well,
but hey, we the North, and we doing work right now.
It's true. It's true. Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed